Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Venture and watched the alien ship grow larger on the main screen. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. This was it. After 300 years of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. The alien vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Venture. Its hull was dark red, almost black, with sharp angles that made it look like a predator. Weapons ports lined its sides, and even though they were closed, Jake could count at least 40 of them. Lisa Grant, his first officer, stood beside him. She had been with him for 6 years, and he trusted her completely. "They're responding to our hail, Captain," she said. Her voice was calm, professional. "Put it on screen," Jake said. The image changed, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. The creature was reptilian, with scales that shimmered green and gold under harsh lighting. Its eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and when it opened its mouth to speak, Jake saw rows of sharp teeth. "I am Vexillar, ambassador of the Krell Dominion," the alien said. The translation software worked perfectly, converting the hissing, clicking sounds into clear English. "You have entered Krell territory. State your purpose." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We come in peace. We're explorers, seeking to make contact with other intelligent species. We mean no harm." Vexillar's eyes narrowed. "Earth. We have not heard of this world. You are new to the stars." "Yes," Jake admitted. "We achieved faster-than-light travel only 5 years ago. We have 12 colonies in nearby systems. We're hoping to establish peaceful relations with our neighbors." Something flickered across Vexillar's face. It might have been amusement, or it might have been contempt. Jake couldn't tell. "The Krell Dominion controls 200 star systems," Vexillar said. "We have conquered 37 species. You would do well to show proper respect." The word "conquered" sent a chill down Jake's spine, but he kept his expression neutral. "We respect your strength," he said carefully. "But we also value independence. Perhaps we can meet face to face, discuss terms for peaceful coexistence." There was a long pause. Then Vexillar nodded once. "Very well. You may send a delegation to our flagship. Come unarmed. Any show of aggression will be met with immediate destruction." The channel closed. Jake turned to Lisa. "Assemble a team. You, Danny, Helen, and Ryan. I'll stay here and monitor the situation." Lisa nodded. "Understood, Captain." An hour later, Lisa stood in the Krell flagship's reception bay with the rest of the team. Danny Cruz, their chief engineer, was sweating despite the cool temperature. Dr. Helen Park, their xenobiologist, was practically vibrating with excitement. Ryan Blake, their tactical officer, looked relaxed, but Lisa knew he was cataloging every detail, every potential threat. The bay was enormous, easily large enough to hold their entire ship. Krell soldiers lined the walls, each one carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. The soldiers were huge, easily 7 feet tall, with thick scales that looked like natural armor. Vexillar entered from a far doorway, flanked by 2 larger Krell who were clearly guards. He walked with purpose, his tail swishing behind him. When he reached the human delegation, he stopped and stared down at them. "You are smaller than I expected," he said. Lisa smiled. "Size isn't everything, Ambassador. We've found that intelligence and cooperation matter more." Vexillar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Pretty words. But the galaxy respects only strength. The weak are conquered. The strong rule. This is the natural order." "We believe the natural order can be improved," Lisa said. She extended her hand, a gesture of peace and greeting. "We'd like to work with you, not against you." Vexillar stared at her outstretched hand. His pupils contracted to thin slits. Around the room, every Krell soldier suddenly went rigid, their hands moving to their weapons. "You dare challenge me?" Vexillar hissed. Lisa blinked, confused. "Challenge you?" "No, Ambassador, this is a handshake. It's how humans greet each other. It's a sign of friendship." "You extend your striking limb toward my throat," Vexillar said, his voice dangerously low. "In Krell culture, this is a challenge to combat. You declare yourself my equal and demand I prove my dominance." Lisa slowly lowered her hand. "I apologize, Ambassador. I didn't know. Our cultures are different. I meant no disrespect." But Vexillar's expression had changed. What might have been simple misunderstanding had become something else. "You claim ignorance," he said. "But I see calculation in your eyes. You test me. You test the Krell Dominion." Helen stepped forward. "Ambassador, please. This is genuinely a misunderstanding. We've never met another species before. We don't know your customs. Let us start again. Vexlar ignored her. His gaze was fixed on Lisa. You refuse to show submission. Even now you stand tall. You meet my eyes. This is deliberate defiance. Ryan's hand drifted toward his sidearm, but Lisa caught his eye and shook her head slightly. Starting a fight here would get them all killed. Ambassador, Lisa said clearly, humans stand upright. We look each other in the eye when we speak. These are not acts of defiance. This is simply how we are. Vexlar was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his words were cold. The Krell Dominion claims all systems within 50 light-years of our borders. Your colonies fall within this sphere. You will withdraw from these systems immediately. You will submit to Krell oversight of all your remaining territories. You will provide tribute of resources and technology. You have one standard cycle to comply. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Ambassador, those colonies are our homes. Thousands of humans live there. We can't just abandon them. Then you choose war, Vexlar said simply. We choose neither war nor surrender, Lisa said. We choose to remain free. Surely there's room in this galaxy for both our peoples. Vexlar's laugh was harsh and brittle. You are children playing with forces you do not understand. The Krell Dominion has crushed species 10 times stronger than yours. We have fought wars that lasted centuries. We have weapons that can burn worlds. He leaned closer. What can humanity offer but compliance or death? Lisa stood her ground. Friendship? Alliance? A partner instead of a subject. Unacceptable, Vexlar said. He turned to his guards. Escort them back to their ship. Deliver my ultimatum to their leaders. They have one cycle to decide. The guards moved forward, and the human delegation had no choice but to follow. As they walked back through the corridors of the Krell flagship, Danny whispered, That went badly. Understatement of the century, Ryan muttered. Back on the Venture, Lisa reported to Jake. His face grew darker with each word. When she finished, he was silent for a long time. They're serious, Helen said quietly. I've been reviewing the cultural data we collected. The Krell view any refusal of dominance as an act of war. In their society, the strong rule and the weak serve. There's no middle ground. Jake nodded slowly. Open a channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. It took 3 hours for the response to arrive. The Unified Defense Council had reviewed the situation and made their decision. The message was brief and clear. Earth would not surrender its colonies. Earth would not submit to alien rule. If the Krell wanted war, they would have it. Jake read the message aloud to his senior staff. When he finished, the bridge was silent. They don't know what they're starting, Danny said quietly. Neither do we, Jake admitted. But we're about to find out. On the Krell flagship, Vexlar received Earth's response and smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. He turned to his military commander, a scarred veteran named Kresh. Assemble the war fleet, he ordered. 300 ships. We will crush this upstart species quickly and completely. Their colonies will fall within a month. Their homeworld will kneel within 3. Kresh saluted. It will be done, Ambassador. Though perhaps we should gather more intelligence on these humans first. Vexlar waved a dismissive hand. They have 12 colonies and perhaps 30 ships. What intelligence do we need? They are weak. They are few. They will learn the price of defying the Krell Dominion. The war fleet began to move. 300 ships of war heading toward human space. On each ship, Krell warriors prepared for battle, confident in their superiority. They had conquered 37 species. Humanity would be the 38th. They had no idea what was coming. The Krell war fleet arrived at Titan's Ridge 3 weeks after the failed diplomatic meeting. The colony was small, home to about 8,000 humans who worked the mineral-rich asteroids in the system. It had minimal defenses, just a handful of patrol ships and a single defense platform. Commander Tala Kresh led the assault personally. She commanded 50 warships, more than enough to overwhelm the tiny colony. Her orders were simple: force surrender, occupy the colony, and use it as a staging point for the next attack. The human response surprised her. The defense platform opened fire immediately, not even waiting for a surrender demand. Its weapons were primitive compared to Krell technology, but the gunners were accurate. 3 Krell ships took damage before they could return fire and destroy the platform. Then the patrol ships attacked. There were only 6 of them, small craft that should have run or surrendered. Instead, they charged directly at the Krell fleet, firing everything they had. They're insane, Kresh's tactical officer said, watching the display. They can't possibly win. No, Kresh agreed. But they're making us pay for every meter. The patrol ships fought until they were destroyed. Not one of them retreated. Not one of them surrendered. By the time the last ship exploded, they had taken out 7 Krell vessels and damaged a dozen more. Kresh ordered her ships to bombard the colony from orbit. The humans would surrender or die, but when the bombardment began, the colonists activated hidden defenses. Missile batteries emerged from underground silos and opened fire. More Krell ships took damage. Ground assault, Kresh ordered. Send in the troops. The battle for Titan's Ridge lasted 18 hours. The Krell had superior numbers, superior weapons, and superior armor, but the humans fought like devils. Every building became a fortress. Every street became a killing ground. Civilians picked up weapons and fought alongside the soldiers. Colonel Pete Matthews commanded the defense. He was a former Marine, 53 years old, with gray hair and steady hands. He moved from position to position, rallying his troops, directing fire, refusing to give up. When Kresh's forces finally cornered him in the command center, he sent out a broadcast on all frequencies. His face was bloody, his uniform torn, but his voice was strong. This is Colonel Pete Matthews to any Krell listening. You should have done your homework before picking this fight. You think we're weak because we're new to space? You're wrong. We're new to space travel, but we're not new to war. You want to know what humans are good at? Ask your wounded. They'll tell you. Then he detonated the command center, taking himself and 20 Krell soldiers with him. The colony fell, but at a terrible cost. Kresh had lost 15 ships destroyed and 30 damaged. Nearly 1,000 Krell soldiers were dead or wounded, and when her troops searched the colony, they found that the humans had destroyed everything of value. The mining equipment was sabotaged. The refineries were burned. The stockpiles of processed minerals were scattered into space. Kresh sent her report back to the Krell homeworld with a grim assessment. These humans do not fight like any species we have encountered before. They do not surrender. They do not break. Recommend we gather more intelligence before proceeding. On the Krell homeworld, the military council received dozens of similar reports. Every human colony they attacked fought back with shocking ferocity. Casualties were mounting far beyond projections. Vexlar remained confident. They fight hard because they are desperate. Once we take their homeworld, their resistance will collapse. But not everyone agreed. Senior analyst Zekthor was a scholar, not a warrior. He had spent his life studying conquered species, understanding what made them fight or surrender. He requested permission to study human culture and history. What is there to study? Vexlar demanded. They are a young species. They have barely left their homeworld. That is precisely what concerns me, Zekthor replied. They fight like veterans, but they have no history of interstellar war. Where did they learn these tactics? Why do they refuse to surrender? I need to understand, Vexlar waved a dismissive hand. You have 3 days. Then we proceed with the invasion of their core systems. Zekthor worked around the clock. The Krell had captured human computers and databases from the occupied colonies. He began searching through human history, starting with their most recent conflicts and working backward. What he found terrified him. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. Not occasional conflicts, but constant grinding warfare. Their planet had been divided into hundreds of nations, and those nations had fought each other for thousands of years. Zekthor read about human wars and felt his scales prickle with dread. He read about conflicts that lasted decades, wars that killed millions, battles where human soldiers fought in frozen trenches or burning deserts without surrender. He learned about something humans called total war, and where entire civilizations mobilized every resource for victory. He read about human cities destroyed by fire, about populations that chose death over occupation, about last stands and desperate defenses and Pyrrhic victories. The numbers were staggering. In one conflict alone, humans had killed nearly 80 million of their own species. They had developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, then built enough of those weapons to destroy it 100 times over. Zekthor created a presentation for the military council. He showed them footage recovered from human databases, ancient battles where human soldiers fought with primitive weapons, modern conflicts where human armies clashed with tanks and aircraft, images of destroyed cities, of soldiers fighting to the last bullet, of civilians who took up arms when their militaries fell. This species has been at war with itself for its entire history, Zekthor explained. They have developed warfare into a science. They have tactics for every situation, strategies for every enemy, and most importantly, they do not give up. He showed them a quote from a human general, written over 200 years ago. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. This is their mindset, Zekthor said. This is why Titan's Ridge fought to the death. This is why every colony resists. They have a cultural memory of warfare that spans millennia. Vexlar interrupted. This proves my point. They are violent and dangerous. They must be conquered before they threaten us. You misunderstand, Zekthor said carefully. This proves they are dangerous, yes. But it also proves they cannot be easily conquered. Look at their history. Every attempt to conquer human nations by force has either failed or required such massive resources that the victory was meaningless. He brought up more data. Humans have a saying, you can kill me, but you cannot make me kneel. This is not bravado. This is observable fact. In their history, occupied populations have waged guerrilla wars for generations. They have resisted empires that controlled half their planet. They have paid terrible prices for their freedom, and they have paid them willingly. The council chamber was silent. Kresh, the military commander, spoke up. What are your recommendations, analyst? Zekthor took a deep breath. Humanity has 12 colonies and a homeworld with 8 billion individuals. If every colony fights like Titan's Ridge, and if even a fraction of their population resists occupation, we will need to commit our entire military for decades. The casualties will be in the millions, and even if we win, we will be so weakened that our other subject species will rebel. You suggest we surrender? Vexlar's voice was dangerous. I suggest we negotiate, Zekthor replied. We have bloodied them. They have bloodied us. Both sides now understand the cost of this war. We can reach terms that preserve honor while avoiding catastrophe. Vexlar stood, his tail lashing in anger. The Krell Dominion does not negotiate with inferiors. We do not show weakness. We will proceed as planned. We will break them, no matter the cost. The council voted to continue the war. Zekthor's warnings were noted and ignored. The invasion fleet began preparing for a major offensive against the human core systems. But Zekthor had been right about one thing. Humanity now understood what they were facing, and they were preparing their own response. On Earth, Admiral Karen Rhodes stood in the command center of the Unified Defense Council and watched the casualty reports from Titan's Ridge. 8,000 colonists dead. 6 patrol ships destroyed. Colonel Matthews, who had served with her decades ago, was gone. She felt rage building in her chest, cold and focused. Around her, other military leaders were calling for immediate retaliation, for massive strikes against Krell targets. No, Karen said quietly, and the room fell silent. She was the senior military officer on Earth, and her word was law. We don't strike back blindly. We plan, we prepare, and then we hit them so hard they never threaten us again. She turned to her staff. I want every shipyard working double shifts. I want every defense contractor producing weapons. I want every reserve unit activated, and I want our best tactical minds developing strategies to counter Krell advantages. How long do we have? One of her generals asked. Karen looked at the star chart showing the Krell fleet movements. 6 months, maybe less, before they're ready to attack our core systems. That gives us 6 months to build an army capable of stopping them. Can we do it? Carebo! 6 months after Titan's Ridge fell, Captain Jake Morrison received orders to return to Earth orbit. The Venture had been patrolling the outer colonies, watching for Krell movements, engaging in small skirmishes. They had been away from home for nearly a year. When the Venture emerged from faster-than-light travel near Earth, Jake stood on the bridge and stared at the view screen in disbelief. Is that accurate? He asked Danny Cruz, who was studying the sensor readings with wide eyes. Yes, sir, Danny replied. I've checked 3 times. The readings are correct. The space around Earth had been transformed. 6 months ago, there had been 12 orbital shipyards and perhaps 50 defense platforms. Now there were hundreds of shipyards, so many that they formed a complete ring around the planet. Defense platforms covered every approach vector, bristling with weapons. And ships, there were so many ships. Lisa Grant pulled up the fleet registry and went pale. Captain, according to this data, Earth has over 200 warships now. 6 months ago, we had 30. How is that possible? Ryan Blake asked. Jake shook his head slowly. I don't know, but I intend to find out. They docked at Orbital Station 7, one of the massive new construction platforms. As Jake walked through the corridors toward the briefing room, he saw evidence of round-the-clock work. Crews moved with purpose, their faces showing exhaustion but also determination. Through windows, he could see ships in various stages of construction. Welding torches flared. Robotic arms moved massive hull sections into place. Nothing stopped. Admiral Karen Rhodes met him in the briefing room. She looked older than he remembered. Her hair grayer, her face lined with stress, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "Captain Morrison," she said, "welcome home. I trust your patrol was productive." "We've been harassing Krell supply lines and gathering intelligence," Jake replied. "But I have to ask, Admiral, what happened here?" "The fleet, the shipyards, everything has changed." Karen gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Captain. I'm going to show you what humanity can do when we're pushed to the edge." She activated a holographic display that showed production figures. Jake read them and felt his mouth go dry. "Every 18 hours a new warship launches," Karen explained. "That's just from Earth's orbital yards. Mars completes a destroyer every 2 days. The Luna factories produce enough missiles in a single week to level a medium-sized planet." "That's impossible," Jake said. "You can't scale up production that fast." "We didn't have a choice," Karen replied. Her voice was hard. "After Titan's Ridge, after watching 8,000 civilians die, we realized this was an existential war. The Krell don't take prisoners. They don't accept peaceful coexistence. They conquer or destroy. So we mobilized." She brought up more data. "Every major corporation converted their factories. Car manufacturers now build tank parts. Electronics companies produce targeting systems. Even food processing plants were modified to produce military rations. We instituted mandatory work shifts, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Nobody complained." Danny leaned forward, studying the technical specifications. "These new ships are different from the Venture. They're faster, more heavily armed, better armored. Every generation improves," Karen said with a slight smile. "Dr. Nathan Wright leads our weapons research division. He's compressed 20 years of development into 6 months. Each new ship class incorporates lessons from every battle, every engagement, every Krell tactic we've observed." She gestured, and a ship appeared in the hologram. It was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. "This is the Defiant-class destroyer. It's faster than any Krell cruiser. Its armor can withstand direct hits from their plasma cannons. Its missile batteries can overwhelm their point defense systems. We've built 40 of them so far. And this," she continued, bringing up a larger ship, "is the Thunderbolt-class cruiser. Heavy weapons, enhanced shields, improved sensors. We have 15 of these, with more launching every week." Jake felt overwhelmed by the scope of it all. "What about personnel?" "Ships are useless without trained crews." "We activated every reserve unit," Karen replied. "Former military personnel were recalled to service. We're training new recruits in accelerated programs, 3 months instead of the usual year. It's not ideal, but we don't have time for ideal. And the volunteers keep coming. After Titan's Ridge, after New Arizona and Sanctuary Falls, everyone wants to fight." Lisa spoke up. "Admiral, the Krell have been intercepting our communications. They know about the buildup." "Good," Karen said coldly. "I want them to know. I want them to see what they've awakened. Every Krell scout ship that gets close enough to observe our fleet goes back with the same message. Humanity is ready for war." She pulled up intelligence reports. "The Krell are panicking. Their military commanders are arguing about strategy. Some want to attack immediately before we get stronger. Others want to pull back and consolidate. Their council is fractured." "What about our strategy?" Jake asked. Karen's expression hardened. "In 2 weeks, we launch Operation Hammerfall. We're going to retake every occupied colony simultaneously. We'll hit them on 7 fronts at once with overwhelming force. They think they know human warfare because they've read our history. We're going to give them a live demonstration." She turned to Jake directly. "The Venture is being retrofitted with the latest weapons and systems. You'll need 3 days in the yard. Then you're assigned to Fleet Group 7 under Admiral Greg Palmer. Your target is Titan's Ridge." Jake felt something fierce and cold settle in his chest. "We're going back to Titan's Ridge." "You are," Karen confirmed. "Every officer who served there either died or was reassigned. You're the only ship captain who saw that colony before the war. I want you there when we take it back. I want you to make the Krell pay for every life they took." "With pleasure, Admiral." "Over the next 2 weeks, Jake watched the final preparations for Operation Hammerfall. He met with other ship captains, coordinated tactics, studied Krell defenses. He met Commander Linda Hayes, a young officer who commanded one of the new Defiant-class destroyers. "First time in combat?" Jake asked her. Linda shook her head. "I fought at New Arizona. We lost that battle, barely got out alive. Been waiting 6 months for payback. You'll get your chance," Jake told her. He also met some of the new recruits, young men and women barely out of training. They were nervous but determined. One of them, a private named Scott Chen, approached him after a briefing. "Captain Morrison, sir, I wanted to ask something. Do you think we can win?" Jake looked at the young man's earnest face. "Private, the Krell made a mistake when they attacked us. They thought we were weak because we're new to space. They didn't understand that humans have been fighting wars since before we could write. We've perfected killing each other over thousands of years. Now we're going to use all that experience against them. So yes, Private, I think we can win. I know we will." The day before Operation Hammerfall launched, Jake stood in the observation deck and watched the fleet assemble. 200 warships formed up in precise formations. Supply ships moved between them, providing last-minute materials. Fighter wings practiced maneuvers around the larger vessels. Lisa joined him at the window. "Quite a sight," she said quietly. "It's terrifying," Jake replied. "This is what humanity looks like when we're truly committed to war. The Krell have conquered 37 species, but I don't think any of them looked like this. Do you think they'll surrender when they see what's coming?" Jake thought about Vexillar's arrogance, about the Krell commander who had ordered the bombardment of Titan's Ridge, about a species that measured worth by conquest. "No," he said finally. "They'll fight to the end, which means we have to be ready to give them that end." On the Krell homeworld, analyst Zekthor was presenting his latest report to the military council. He had been monitoring human communications and fleet movements for months. What he had learned filled him with dread. "They've built over 200 warships in 6 months," he told the assembled commanders. "Their industrial capacity is beyond anything we've encountered. They've converted their entire economy to military production, and their ships are improving with each generation." Vexillar dismissed his concerns. "Numbers mean nothing without experience. Our warriors have fought for decades. Their crews are untested. Their crews are motivated," Zekthor countered. "Every human who enlists knows someone who died at Titan's Ridge or one of the other colonies. They're not fighting for territory or resources. They're fighting for survival. That makes them dangerous," Commander Kresh spoke up. "Our intelligence suggests they're preparing a major offensive. Multiple fleet groups are mobilizing. They're going to try to retake the occupied colonies." "Let them come," Vexillar said. "We'll crush them in open battle, then we'll proceed with the invasion of their core systems. This war ends with Earth under Krell control." Zekthor wanted to argue more, but he knew it was useless. The Council had committed to victory regardless of the cost. They would learn the truth soon enough, and so the stage was set. Two civilizations, both convinced of their righteousness, both prepared to pay any price for victory. The humans sought to reclaim their freedom. The Krell fought to maintain their dominance. In 72 hours, the largest space battle in galactic history would begin. One way or another, the war was about to reach its turning point. Operation Hammerfall began at exactly 0400 hours, coordinated across 7 star systems simultaneously. Admiral Greg Palmer commanded Fleet Group 7, which included the Venture and 40 other warships. Their target was Titan's Ridge. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Venture and watched the fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The Krell had fortified the colony heavily after their costly initial victory. Sensor readings showed 30 warships, multiple defense platforms, and ground-based weapons. "They're outnumbered," Lisa observed. "They have 30 ships. We have 41. "They don't know that yet," Jake replied. "Admiral Palmer is keeping the fleet spread out until the last moment. He wants them to think we're smaller than we are." The Krell fleet moved to intercept, confident in their defensive position. Then Admiral Palmer gave the order, and the entire human fleet dropped out of stealth mode simultaneously. Every ship appeared on sensors at once, surrounding the Krell position. On the Krell flagship, Commander Tala Kresh, who had led the original assault on Titan's Ridge, stared at her tactical display in disbelief. "How many ships?" 41 confirmed contacts, her sensor officer reported. "All capital ships. They're using new designs we haven't seen before." Kresh made her decision instantly. All ships, defensive formation Delta. Target the largest vessels first. We hold until reinforcements arrive. The battle began with a massive exchange of missile fire. The human fleet launched thousands of missiles in the opening salvo, far more than Krell point defenses could handle. Explosions blossomed across space as missiles found their targets. 3 Krell ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds, but the Krell were veterans. They returned fire with disciplined precision, their plasma cannons reaching across the distance to strike human shields. The destroyer Relentless took heavy damage and fell back. The cruiser Steadfast lost its main engines and began drifting. Jake maneuvered the Venture into position alongside Commander Linda Hayes and her ship, the Defiant. They had planned this maneuver during the briefing. 2 ships working together, concentrating fire on single targets. Target the cruiser at bearing 275, Jake ordered. Full missile spread, then close for plasma cannon range. The Venture and the Defiant fired together. Their missiles overwhelmed the Krell cruiser's defenses, and the follow-up plasma fire tore through its weakened shields. The cruiser exploded, debris spinning off into space. 1 down, Linda's voice came over the comm. 11 more to go in our sector. The battle raged for 3 hours. The human fleet used tactics the Krell had never seen before, coordinated maneuvers that required split-second timing. Drone swarms, another innovation from Dr. Wright's research team, swarmed around Krell ships and overwhelmed their sensors. Human fighters, small and fast, darted between the capital ships and struck at vulnerable points. Slowly, inexorably, the Krell fleet was ground down. Kresh fought brilliantly, but she was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. When she had only 7 ships remaining, Admiral Palmer broadcast a message. Krell forces, this is Admiral Greg Palmer of Earth Fleet. You are defeated. Surrender now, and you will be treated with honor. Continue fighting and you will die. You have 60 seconds to decide. Kresh's response was immediate. Krell warriors do not surrender to prey species. Then die like warriors, Palmer replied. The final assault was brutal. The human fleet converged from all directions, pouring fire into the remaining Krell ships. One by one they fell. Kresh's flagship was the last to go. As it broke apart, escape pods launched and the human fleet held fire to let them evacuate. Secure the escape pods, Palmer ordered. Treat the survivors well. They fought bravely, even if they fought for the wrong cause. With the space battle won, the ground assault began. Ryan Blake led a Marine battalion down to the colony surface. The Krell garrison was dug in and prepared for a long defense, but the human forces were fighting to liberate their own people. Every Marine knew what had happened here 6 months ago. They knew about Colonel Matthews and the civilians who had died. This was personal. The battle for Titan's Ridge took 2 days. The humans fought building to building, room by room. They used heavy weapons without hesitation, caring more about speed than preserving infrastructure. Ryan Blake found himself pinned down in a warehouse district, Krell fire coming from 3 directions. We need to flank them, he shouted to his sergeant, a veteran named Kyle Brooks. Take 3rd Squad left. I'll push up the middle with 1st and 2nd. That's suicide, sir, Brooks replied. No, Ryan said grimly. That's war. They executed the maneuver and it worked. The Krell position fell, but Ryan took a plasma burn to his shoulder. The medic patched him up and he kept fighting. When the last Krell strongpoint fell, Ryan stood in the ruins of the command center where Colonel Matthews had made his last stand. Someone had placed a memorial there, a simple marker with his name and rank. Ryan saluted it. We got them back, Colonel, he said quietly. Every meter. Every building. It's ours again. Similar scenes played out across all 7 occupied colonies. At New Arizona, Admiral Karen Rhodes personally commanded the assault. At Sanctuary Falls, a mixed human fleet overwhelmed the Krell garrison in 4 hours. At each colony, the pattern was the same. Swift, overwhelming victory. The Krell war fleet had started with 300 ships. 2 weeks after Operation Hammerfall began, they had fewer than 80. Their casualties were catastrophic. Their positions were lost. And the human fleet was coming for more, but victory came at a cost. The Defiant, Commander Linda Hayes' ship, was covering a transport evacuation at New Arizona when a damaged Krell cruiser made a suicide run. Linda could have pulled back, saved her ship. Instead, she put the Defiant between the Krell ship and the transport. Jake was monitoring the battle from 3 star systems away when he heard her final transmission. This is Commander Hayes to all ships. Transport is clear. Recommend you fall back. This is going to be a big explosion. Linda, pull out! Jake shouted into the comm. That's an order! Her laugh was strained but genuine. Sorry, Captain. I've got 700 civilians on that transport. They're somebody's family. This is what we do. A pause. Make it count. The Defiant rammed the Krell cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded, the blast lighting up the night sky of New Arizona. The transport escaped without a scratch. Jake stood on his bridge staring at the empty space where a friendly icon had disappeared from the tactical display. Lisa put a hand on his shoulder. She saved them, Lisa said softly. I know, Jake replied. His voice was rough. I know. Linda Hayes' sacrifice was broadcast across human space and became a rallying cry. Her last words, "Make it count," were painted on ships, printed on recruitment posters, and whispered by soldiers going into battle. As news of the human victories spread, something unexpected happened. Other civilizations began paying attention. The galaxy was home to dozens of intelligent species, most of them peaceful. They had formed a loose alliance called the Galactic Assembly, dedicated to trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. The Krell Dominion refused to join, considering the Assembly weak and pathetic. Now, the Assembly watched in fascination as humanity, a species they had never heard of, systematically dismantled the Krell war machine. Ambassador Chen Wei, representing Earth at an emergency assembly session, found herself surrounded by curious aliens. The Vrin, an insectoid species with compound eyes and delicate antennae, approached her with obvious interest. Ambassador Chen, the Vrin representative said through a translator, "Your species fights with remarkable efficiency. How long have you been a spacefaring civilization?" "About 5 years," Chen replied honestly. The Vrin's antennae twitched in surprise. 5 years? But you fight like a species with centuries of interstellar warfare experience. Chen smiled slightly. We have centuries of warfare experience. It's just that we've spent most of it fighting each other. Word spread through the assembly. Species that had been bullied by the Krell, forced to pay tribute, threatened with conquest, began reaching out to humanity. They offered intelligence, star charts, information about Krell supply lines and fleet movements. The Silurians, an aquatic species whose water worlds had been raided for resources, provided detailed maps of Krell territory. The Dravens, a philosophical people who valued peace above all, shared technological data they had been forced to give the Krell as tribute. "Why are you helping us?" Chen asked a Silurian representative. The alien's translated response was simple. "Because you are doing what we could not. You are standing up to the Krell. You are proving they can be beaten. And if you win, perhaps the rest of us can finally be free." Chen reported this back to Admiral Rhodes on Earth. Karen, read the intelligence reports with growing interest. "We're not fighting alone anymore," she said to her staff. "Half the galaxy is rooting for us. Some are actively helping. The Krell have made a lot of enemies." "Does that change our strategy?" one of her generals asked. Karen shook her head. "No, we finish what they started. We push them back to their core systems. Then we offer terms, generous ones. We're not conquerors. We're defenders. Once the threat is eliminated, we help rebuild and we make friends. And if they don't accept terms," Karen's expression was cold, "then we show them what total war really." The Krell war fleet arrived at Earth 3 weeks later. 75 warships, the last remnants of a force that had once numbered 300. They emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system and began their approach. On the surface of the Krell homeworld, Vexillar watched the tactical displays with fierce determination. He had staked everything on this final gamble. If they could break Earth's defenses, destroy the human shipyards, the war might still be salvaged. If they failed, the Krell Dominion's age of conquest was over. But as the Krell fleet moved deeper into the solar system, they realized the scale of their mistake. Earth was defended by over 400 warships. The number had doubled again in just 3 weeks. Defense platforms surrounded the planet in 3 complete shells, each one bristling with weapons. Fighter wings numbering in the thousands patrolled every approach vector. The moon was covered in missile batteries. Mars hosted 2 complete battle fleets. Commander Kresh, leading the fleet in Vexillar's absence, felt her blood run cold as the sensors compiled the data. "This is not possible," she whispered. They have built an empire's worth of defenses in less than a year. Admiral Karen Rhodes broadcast a message to the Krell fleet. Her image appeared on every Krell ship's view screen. She looked tired but resolute. Krell fleet, this is Admiral Karen Rhodes, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. You have entered our home system with hostile intent. I am authorized to offer you terms of surrender. Power down your weapons. Cut your engines. Allow our ships to escort you to a neutral station. You will be treated humanely. Your crews will be returned to your homeworld unharmed. This war can end right now without any more death. She paused, letting the offer sink in. But if you choose to attack, if you fire a single shot at my planet or my people, I promise you this. Not one of your ships will leave this system. We have the capacity to destroy your entire fleet, and we will use it. You have 5 minutes to decide. On her flagship, Kresh wanted to accept. She had seen enough of human warfare to know they were beaten. But orders from the homeworld were clear. Vexlar's voice crackled over the secure channel. Commander Kresh, you will attack immediately. This is our final chance to break them. Do not fail the Dominion. Kresh closed her eyes briefly, then opened them and gave the order. All ships attack formation. Target the defense platforms first. For the Dominion. The Battle of Earth began with a massive Krell missile barrage. Thousands of missiles streaked toward the planet, trying to overwhelm the defenses through sheer numbers. But the human point defense systems were ready. Laser batteries fired, destroying incoming missiles by the hundreds. Fighter wings intercepted and destroyed the rest. Not a single missile reached the surface. The human counterattack was systematic and devastating. Admiral Rhodes divided her fleet into battle groups, each one assigned to specific Krell ships. The humans had studied Krell tactics for a year, learned their patterns, understood their strengths and weaknesses. Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of these battle groups. The Venture, scarred from a year of fighting but still combat-ready, led 15 other ships against a Krell heavy cruiser. All ships, execute pattern Delta 7, Jake ordered. Concentrate fire on their port side. That's where their shield generators are weakest. The battle group moved in perfect coordination. Missiles from 3 different vectors overwhelmed the Krell ship's defenses. Plasma fire from the Venture and 2 destroyers hammered the weakened shields. The Krell cruiser's port side exploded and the ship began listing. Target neutralized, Lisa reported. Moving to next engagement. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships worked in groups, supporting each other, covering each other's weaknesses. The Krell fought bravely, but they were outmaneuvered and outgunned. 4 hours into the battle, Commander Kresh had lost half her fleet. The survivors were scattered, damaged, running low on ammunition. She made the hardest decision of her life. All ships cease fire. Repeat, cease fire. Shut down weapon systems and engines. We surrender. Admiral Rhodes accepted the surrender immediately. She dispatched medical ships to help with wounded Krell soldiers and had the damaged ships towed to safe orbits. True to her word, she treated the defeated enemy with respect. But the war was not over. On the Krell homeworld, Vexlar received the news of the defeat and refused to accept it. Assemble the defense fleet, he ordered. If the humans want to end this war, they will have to come here and finish it. He was right. Admiral Rhodes knew that as long as the Krell military leadership remained defiant, the threat would persist. She made the decision to take the war to the Krell homeworld, not to destroy it, but to force a final, conclusive peace. The human fleet, now numbering nearly 500 ships, arrived at the Krell homeworld 2 weeks later. The planet was defended by orbital platforms and the last remnants of the Krell military, perhaps 40 ships. Rhodes broadcast a message, not to the military but to the Krell civilian population. She had it translated into their language and transmitted on every frequency. People of the Krell homeworld, I am Admiral Karen Rhodes of Earth. Your military leaders started a war with humanity by demanding our surrender and attacking our colonies. We have defeated your fleets. We have liberated our people. Now we come to you not to destroy your world, but to end this war permanently. She detailed the history of the conflict, the unprovoked Krell demands, the battles, the casualties on both sides. She explained that humanity sought only peace and security. We do not wish to conquer you. We do not wish to rule over you. But we cannot allow your military to threaten us or other species again. I am offering terms of peace. Your leaders have refused every offer we have made. If you want this war to end, if you want your sons and daughters to stop dying in space, tell your leaders that enough is enough. The message was repeated every hour, and slowly, it had an effect. On the Krell homeworld surface in the civilian districts far from the military command centers, people began to talk. They had been told that the war was going well, that victory was assured. Now an enemy fleet sat in orbit and the truth became clear. They had lost. Regional governors, civilian leaders who had no love for Vexlar's aggressive policies, began reaching out to the human fleet. They offered to negotiate separate peace agreements. They provided intelligence about military installations. Some even called for Vexlar's removal from power. The Krell military made one final attempt to attack the human fleet. It was a disaster. Human ships, now with a year of combat experience, tore through the defense forces in 3 hours. Not a single human ship was lost. 20 Krell vessels were destroyed. Vexlar, isolated in his command center, finally understood. He had lost. Not just the battle, not just the war, but everything. The dominion he had served his entire life was broken, and it was his fault. He sent a transmission to Admiral Rhodes. His image showed a being who had aged years and months. His scales were dull, his eyes hollow. Admiral Rhodes, I am Vexlar, former ambassador of the Krell Dominion. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. Rhodes met him via hologram. She showed no triumph, no gloating, just tired professionalism. Ambassador Vexlar, I'm glad you've seen reason. These are our terms. The Krell military will disarm all offensive weapon systems. Your war fleet will be reduced to defensive forces only. You will withdraw from all occupied territories and return any prisoners. You will submit to Galactic Assembly oversight for a period of no less than 20 years, and you will pay reparations to the colonies you damaged. Vexlar listened and felt rage building in his chest. But what could he do? He had no ships, no leverage, nothing but the ruins of his ambitions. These terms are harsh, he said. These terms are merciful, Rhodes replied. We could demand far more. We could occupy your homeworld. We could dismantle your government completely. We're offering you a chance to rebuild, to rejoin the galactic community as equals rather than conquerors. Take it or leave it. Vexlar was silent for a long moment. Then he asked the question that had been haunting him. How? How did you defeat us? We have been conquering species for 1,000 years. We had superior numbers, superior experience. How did a species that barely achieved spaceflight destroy us? Rhodes considered her answer carefully. You made assumptions, Ambassador. You assumed we were weak because we were new to space. You didn't understand that being new to space doesn't mean being new to war. Humanity has been fighting wars since before we had written language. We've spent thousands of years learning how to kill each other efficiently. You started a war with a species that has warfare encoded in our cultural DNA. She leaned forward slightly. But more than that, you underestimated our determination. You thought you could bully us into submission. You didn't realize that humans become most dangerous when we're cornered, when our homes are threatened, when our people are killed. You awakened something in us that had been dormant, and now you've paid the price. Vexlar closed his eyes. We did not become effective at war. We have always been this way. We simply hoped we would never have to show you. Exactly, Rhodes said. She had used almost those exact words before. So, Ambassador, do you accept the terms? I do, Vexlar said quietly. For what remains of my people, for the civilians who have suffered enough,